Okay,
All right, three, two. All right, I'm live on my.
right.
Excellent.
Okay, so I thought then we could start with some fascinating subjects. One, which is the term called aphantasia, which is a condition of someone who cannot see visions in picture or in color. They don't see anything when they're thinking things. Now, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And if you do that now, and I'll ask you to think about something. So I'm going to ask you to think about a black ball with pink dots on it. So just think
Yeah.
about a black ball with pink dots. And then
hmm
when you see it, if you see it, tell me what it's doing.
It's moving this way.
So it's just
It's just
spinning in midair
spinning.
or.
It's spinning in midair right now. There's
Okay.
like maybe there's a surface underneath, but it's not a floor. It looks like a stand, and it's just rotating now. Kind of
Right.
like the Earth when you have it on a stand.
Yeah, yeah. Now keep your eyes closed and turn that ball into a green ball.
Okay. Still got the pink dots on it.
Right. Interesting. Can you have it bounce up and down on that pedestal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing it right now.
What about making it pop? Can you make it pop?
Just did.
Sorry?
I just popped.
Just popped. Okay, well
It's funny
that
because now I see like a little cloud in the middle of the pop.
right.
I'm just trying to pay attention to all the little details.
Mhm. So that's quite extensive because I was doing this to this friend of mine in the gym, and I asked him
Uh,
to think about a pink ping pong ball, and he said, "Okay, I see a white ping pong ball." I said, "Okay, what's it doing?" He says, "Oh, it's just hovering in the air, and it's above a brown wooden floor." I said, "Can you make that ball go green?" He says, "No, you're staying white." I said, "Can you picture a banana?" Yeah, got it. Funny enough, it's still on the brown floor. So he was legitimately seeing things, but he couldn't change things like you can change. And so obviously there's degrees of this. And some people I know see vaguely kind of like stuff, maybe not in such technical with such definition. But I'm going to investigate that more with people that I speak to see what the lengths and breadths of it are. But
were you able to do it?
no, I don't see
You couldn't do it?
I don't see nothing. I'm a fantasiac.
Uh,
And the thing is that how I learnt about this um, was that for years when I'm speaking to Mr. Nobody, he's always telling me that, he, because he reads lots of sci-fi books. And when he was a kid, he had this near-death experience when he was 8 years old, and it shocked him to his core, and he became a loner because his parents didn't believe him that he saw his whole life flash before him and everything like this. And so then he started just to, he couldn't communicate with other people. And he went in, and he used to be a loner, lie in his bed, for year in, year out as a kid. And he'd go into these fantasy realms where he'd build his own island and his own fort and anything he wanted on it. And, that's how he spent his days. And so we used to be talking, and uh, I'd say something about, picture this or picture that. And he'd go, okay, yeah. I said, so what do you see? And he'd tell me exactly like this what he sees. I'm like, what, you're seeing exactly that? It's a bit specific, isn't it? He says, well, what else do you want me to see? I said, well, see a snow landscape. Oh, yeah, see it. It's got the sun over there. It's shining down on here. It's pure white there. And I'm like, what? You seeing an actual real place? He says, I'm seeing it, bro, just like I'm seeing with open eyes. I'm like, that's fucked up. Because for all my life, I never knew people could do that. When I took my hypnotherapy course, we're asked to visualize stairs going down to a beach or your secret garden. You look at all the beautiful flowers and you see the bees and the butterflies. I couldn't see shit. How my mind works, it works in platonic forms. Platonic forms are ideas. I just can, if you say to me, think of a bird, then I can think of a dodo, I'll think of a cassowary, I'll think of an ostrich, I'll think of a blackbird, a peacock, a pigeon, a dove, on and on and on and on and on and on, endlessly. I'll get an endless stream of birds doing all different sorts of stuff in all different ways. I won't just see one bird where I can say, oh yeah, it's a white dove and it's got, this orange beak and like it's standing with its left, no,
So so you see the flashes of the pictures at least? Like if I tell
no,
you
I don't
banana,
see
you don't get a
nothing.
flash of a picture of a banana?
I don't see nothing.
Not even a flash of the picture? Like
Black.
when you told me, like if you when you mentioned banana before, I just like a picture, but it wasn't like I held it. It was just like a flash of a picture of a banana came up in mind, but then it goes away.
Oh,
Like
okay.
when you're talking about it, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like not
well,
not even a mental. So as I'm talking, like when people talk to you, you know how people like mentally, like sometimes they'll talk to you, and you form mental pictures as you're talking. So if I tell you like an apple, a red apple, didn't it just like a flash of a red apple like come to your mind? No.
never known it.
Did you ever play with toys
Yeah.
when you were younger? Yeah. You never imagined stuff while you were playing with toys?
Oh, yeah, I always imagine what's going on, but I never could see anything internally.
Well, you're not going to physically see it, but you'll have the imagination of it happening. So, for
Y-
example, like I remember I would play, like I was fascinated with WWE, right? These were like the wrestling. And I had all different type of toys, like different types of toys. Like I had Ninja Turtles, I had GI Joes and whatnot, but they were all fairly the same size. And what I did was I made an organization of all these toys. So all these toys were their own. I made a character that wasn't pertaining to the character. So like, let's say for example, if I had Rambo, he was no longer Rambo. He was like a character that I made up off of like wrestling, and then he would be that character, and then I would have another character, but I was always like imagining the crowd, and then I would have them fight, do the wrestling moves and whatnot, and then I would even play in the computer, uh, the wrestling theme songs as they were coming out, and I used to get like all into it and shit. Like it wasn't like I was physically seeing it, but I was immersed in that world without it visually being there. I was in that mode. You get what I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's kind of like what I'm talking about. You're not gonna physically see it like I'm seeing you here on camera. It's kind of like you're just imagining these things happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people can see everything in complete technicolor, so they say, when they close their eyes. Some people see imagery which they can manipulate and do this and that, and other people, like you just said, will see flashes. But you see, me as a child, I was always out in the countryside. Um, from when I was about 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old, my old man brought us back from the children's homes because our mother took her life when we were very young, so we went into children's homes for 5 years, and then he married again and brought us back out. And this house was in the countryside. And so, well, we were just out there doing all the stuff in the countryside, making bows and arrows and spears and catapults and air rifles and hunting and poaching and building bivouacs and tree dens and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Endless days. We were always doing that. We we never had a toy box. So I don't remember, in my life, I made a video about this the other day. I said that when we was in children's home 1 year, I think maybe I was about 8 years old, just before my dad came to get us out. But we've been in children's homes for 5 years, and up until that point, we never had any Christmas presents or anything like that. But he brought Christmas presents on this occasion, and they weren't wrapped up, so there was no mystery to it. It was just two metal painted boats that you wind up and you put in the water, and they go me like that. And he came, towards evening time on Christmas Day, whilst everybody else was opening presents. And
Uh-huh.
I was never a toy kid, to be fair. And then the next sort of memories of toys for me was catapults and air rifles, at 9 years old, 10 years old. So it wasn't Tonka toys or fucking Action Men. And on the occasion that we did have an Action Man, that we bought one from the village store, second hand, village hall rummage sale, we used to call them. We used to shoot them with air rifles. We used to put them all up in trees, and
Yeah,
weren't
yeah.
playing like Action Man having a great time. No, we were shooting these fuckers with air rifles,
Uh,
and
I'm
so
uh I'm a huge toy person. I love toys. Like that's I even till this day still love toys. And actually, I look forward to going into stores to go to the toy section still. Like I love the new toys that come out and stuff. My son, actually, I can such a great relationship for that reason. Is because
right.
of the whole toy stage that I left the toy stage very late. I'm gonna tell you right now, I was probably like 17. I was still playing with toys. I was playing sports. I got into girls kind of late too. Like I was into girls early, but not really into the place of like starting like serious relationships with them. I got into that when I was in my 20s because
Mhm.
I started hanging out with my friends and whatnot, and then I kind of like put my toys away. But and then now it's like sort of reawakened because I still kind of like I don't play with toys like a little kid, but from time to time I'll still fucking like fondle toys and stuff and whatnot, and I get into my imaginary state when I do that. It's a lot of fun. I don't know. I just get it. I lose myself in those worlds.
Yeah, well, the eminent psychologist Carl Jung.
Mhm.
Well, he went through about 4 years of depression, and for at least 2 of those years, he had a sandpit built in his
Mhm.
garden, and he bought toys, and he brought the old grey school shorts that he used to wear as a schoolboy, like they used to in the old days, and he used just to play for hours and hours in the sandpit, which was therapy, which he needed to do to get back into his imagination and that youthful thing where he never had a care and all this sort of thing. And so that sort of escapism is a wonderful thing, getting back into the imagination and bringing that back into our world, because it's a wonderful thing. But getting back on topic, so you see images, I see nothing. So the next thing is when you are thinking about things, do you have a monologue or a dialogue? Or do you
When I'm
not have
thinking
a
about
monologue or a dialogue?
what do you mean when I'm thinking about things? Do I have a monologue or a
So,
dialogue?
for instance, if you're thinking, "Oh, I'm going to go to the gym," how do you think about that?
Um, I mean, it's just a feeling of, and if it's followed by a motivation and then just an action, but it's not really like I don't put too much thought into it because it's kind of like a lifestyle already. Like
Ye-
people who have to think too hard about things, I feel like they're going against their grain in life. With me, for example, like certain things I do them because I want to do them. So they're already like a rhythm I have. But when I want to change a habit, then yeah, I got to put a little bit more of I would probably say a little bit of a dialogue to it, but it's not.
Okay,
It doesn't take hard to convince
so
myself.
let me narrow it down, and then we'll give you another instantiation, or
Mhm.
offer you the opportunity to give me an instantiation. Um, when you are thinking about having a video chat with me, um, how do you think about that? How do you decide on a subject matter? And
That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't. I really, honestly, man. I like before we start our chats, or even just like when we plan it. I put no thought into it. I don't overthink it. I don't think about it. I mean, I just know that I just see that it's going to be a great chat in my mind, and that's about it. And then we sit here, and it's a great chat. So I already know what to say, how to say it, because the moment I start overthinking it, it's kind of like somebody wanting, desiring, and seeing things, and then all of a sudden they crystallize it and kind of eat the energy. And then when they sit there, they don't know what the fuck they're going to talk about. So it's like, no, I'm ready because I know I'm ready, and that's it.
okay, and now what about when you read? How do you think about what you're reading?
I pretend I know nothing. So I just go in there as if I'm a child and brand new to the world and not know nothing. Because if I go in there and I sit there as with like my ideas of thinking I know something or previous information I've heard, then I'm just going to be closed minded to
Yeah,
what I
but
just read.
the actual act of reading, do you hear the words in your head?
Uh, mm, do I read? So what? So I don't do much reading, but when I do read, I do hear the words in my head. Yeah, I hear the words in my head.
Right. And
Mm.
you have an internal dialogue questioning the things you've just read. Like, look, for instance, if I'm reading something about Freud and Freud's talking about
I know
the
what you're saying.
unconscious, I'm
Mhm.
reading, oh, the unconscious is very important because it's the suppository of all the experiences we've ever had. And I'll pause and I'll go, yeah, okay, so where's an instantiation of that? Oh, right, I can think about this and think about that. Okay, so I've got one internal dialogue that I'm actually saying the words to myself when I'm reading, and then I pause that and then I question it by having an internal monologue. Do you have that?
So with me, it happens very instantly. So like, let's say for example, I'm reading something and then I question it. I don't know why it's more like a visual type of scenario for me. It's not too much auditory. Like I can see the things that somebody's saying and I can see through it. And then sometimes I can see the fallacy or I can see the truth coming out of something.
Right.
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
more visual than auditory.
it's very interesting. So it sounds like that you don't actually have a monologue. You don't actually talk to yourself. Now, when I was watching the video last night, this guy was astounded by this actual, thing that.
I'm sorry to cut you off. You know what? I'm sorry to cut you off. So are you? Because I want to separate these two. Because there's some people who have mental activity where
Yeah,
they just start hearing and it's on autopilot. Versus somebody who's actually literally trying to talk to
your
themselves.
volume's gone weird. Keep talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's gone muffled now. Keep talking, otherwise I won't know if it changes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's gone onto that vibraty sort of thing now.
Give me one quick second. All right, tell me if you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can, but it's gone onto that other setting.
Hold on a second.
That's it.
Yep, you can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
You can still hear me?
Yep.
Let me just get back into the video. There you go. All right. So we'll keep it at that. Yeah. So, um, what I was saying was is that you know how some people have mental activity and they just hear the mind chatter and it
Yep.
just doesn't stop. It's like overwhelming. But then there's people who's actually talking to themselves. You're not talking about the mind chatter, right? You're talking more about like somebody actually intentionally talking to themselves, getting answers and whatnot. And
Yep.
uh, the answers may not come auditorily, but they'll come in the form of like hunches, inspirations, ideas, and whatnot. So I have more of like pictures and stuff like that. You get what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like things just.
So there was a girl that this guy was talking to, who she never had an internal dialogue, and he said, "How do you read them?" And she says, "Well,
Mhm,
I just like say it with my lips. I'm actually speaking
mhm.
without, the sound, and I see pictures. Pictures are coming, not all the time, but for main things, it's picture, 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 and I'm bringing the words into reality by. And I found that absolutely bizarre because I've got a full dialogue going on. And what I actually do is when I'm reading, I can be concentrating and absorbing all the information with my left brain, but I can be thinking about anything else I want to with my right brain. So I've got two things going on all the time. And it doesn't infringe upon the other because they're separate hemispheres. And so I used to say that to people, and people said that that's fucking weird. So that's one of the things that I can do. The thing I can't do is the visions. I can't see any visions at all, and I have a dialogue because I'm always speaking to myself. For instance, shall I go to the gym now, or shall I go later? Oh, if you go later, might leave it a bit late. What have you got to do? You got some stuff. Okay, yeah, got that stuff to do there. So I suppose, and this is me as a Libran. I'm weighing things up all the time, and I said this to another friend of mine. And he said, I don't have that shit. I just think one thing and I do it. Whatever I'm doing, I just think one thing. I don't ever think, what if I do this and what if I do that? It's kind of like what you don't ever doubt that you want to go to the gym. You don't ever think, shall I go to the supermarket tomorrow? Do you just think supermarket and I'm going to the supermarket? Do you not have this internal dialogue where it says, fucking go to the supermarket tomorrow? You've got whatever you need. You only went yesterday. Do you not have that?
Well, it depends on the scenario. You get what I'm saying? Like if I'm doing something that I know I'm supposed to be doing, and then I get that internal nudge saying don't do it. It's like a lazy feeling that comes over me. Like maybe it's just something that like let's say for example if I have to go to school, but then my lazy feeling kicks in and says don't go today, go tomorrow, like or don't go to the gym today, go tomorrow. It's kind of like no, I'm gonna go because I already said I was fucking going and I already like set my mind to that. You get what I'm saying? It just
Yeah,
depends what you set your mind to and what the purpose of it is. Um, if it's laundry, if it's the dishes, or if it's whatever, like get it done then and there. I can't stand procrastination. That's the thing that kind of I was living with people at one point who procrastinate a lot, and that's became my pet peeve. That's the whole thing.
yeah,
So if I don't do it, it's gonna just keep building up and get it done, and it'll bleed into other things in my life. That's what I noticed.
yeah.
So I have to be the one that if I said I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Like I do plan and structure. It's very important. So like let's say like what you just said, if I go to the gym, but then I gotta get this done, and like that structure is there, but it's like it's visual. It's crazy. Like I already see the things planned out, but
Visual,
I'm looking at it
visual.
like
That's
kind of
right.
like you see how Iron Man he had like Jarvis, and then all of a sudden he was moving the screens around. It's like that for me for some reason, but I'm organizing it, and then when it's set, it has to happen because I already did it. Like if I change
Right,
it, then I feel like I'm gonna bleed that same procrastination into other areas of my life, and it's happened. So
right.
I've learned from that. Do what the fuck you got to do. Like with our conversation, when I said I don't plan it, I already know we're gonna have a conversation. I
Yeah,
don't overthink that because I can't control you,
yeah.
right? I can control what I say, but then if I overthink what I say and then you have other thoughts in mind, I just completely discombobulated my fucking conversation with you.
Right.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
So let me ask you one more question about this then. When you're gardening, do you ever think about complete random things while you're doing the gardening?
Yes. I'm in a meditative state when I'm gardening, so I'm very present with the garden. I'm more or less looking at everything as far as like what I'm doing and where I'm going and what where things are gonna go. So I'm kind of like distracted in that. But then there's times that other things do kick in. But believe it or not, this is why I said I've gotten a lot of answers out of just gardening about life. Things that I've had questioned from previous times. So it's not to say that like things that I've had in the closet, let's say, things about life have been answered just by gardening. Now, my environment basically talks to me, but it's not talking to me in language. It's talking to me in a way where I'm getting the hunches, inspirations, ideas. There's times where just from gardening, I've been in a flow of certain thought patterns, and I've had inspirations to make like 5 videos in a row, and not all of them are published because they were mainly for me. But I go back and look at them, and I'm like, fucking a, bro, something I had question on. I talked about it, and because I'm at this place now, it's kind of like being multidimensional, not linear.
Yeah.
I just answered myself a question that I made a video on because in the future I was already channeling myself into that space to answer that question I originally had. It's
Yeah.
kind of like my life is like a mirage, and it's I'm making a big picture. I'm making a picture out of it. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And it's like my life is becoming a lot more magical in that way.
Okay.
You know, I'm
Another
not
question
doing it
then.
in a human aspect.
When
Hmm.
when you go into the shower, do you have an internal dialogue then or monologue? You know.
You know what's funny? When I'm in the shower, I actually my intention to shower is not just to clean my body, but it's to clean out the fucking negativity and the bullshit that I've accumulated throughout my day. You get what
Right.
I'm saying? So I'm utilizing the poison of the fluorine and the chlorine and the bullshit that people talk about
Yeah.
to wash off all those fucking garbages that are in me. And if I'm in there, normally that's where my mind is at. But my internal dialogue when I'm in the water, like let's say if I have a certain uh, thought about something that I want to know about. Believe it or not, just the shower is a good place to get fucking answers out of yourself too. You know, like let's say if we talked about something and I had a question about something we talked about and it stayed on my mind. In the shower, it's a good place to get those answers. You know when it's a really good time to get those answers too? Like just when you're drifting off into bed or like not drifting off into bed, more like waking up from the
Yeah.
dreamlike state, you
Yeah.
start to get those answers, but it's good to write them down because when you wake up and you're conscious, they can slip out of your mind pretty fucking quickly too. You know, so.
So what about this one then? Because this is what lots of people do.
Mhm.
I know this from watching videos, and this is what I do. Whenever I go into the shower, I'm always thinking or having an argument or saying something that I should have said, like, I say always, not always, but there's been lots of times. If there's anything, if I get in a state of agitation, then my mind is, potentially argumentative. I will create arguments in my head, and they can be random shit of 30 years ago, which don't mean anything at all, but I'll have this internal dialogue where I'm arguing my case. Well, you did this and you shouldn't have done that. If you didn't do that, then this would have never happened. What are you going to say about that then? Oh, that one again. All right. And I'm actually got these two things going on. Do you ever have that?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had those. I mean, that's where I made a video on that. From that perspective, I've observed the two minds of God going at it. That's mainly the devil and the omnipresence, basically arguing back and forth with each other. And normally, people would polarize and take sides and say one side is bad, one side is good. But I can see that both sides are very useful for me, who's observing those two mind chatters going on as far as like the dialogue going off. But and then I polarize to one side, and I feel like I'm the one that's having that, but it's not really me. I have to be the witness and the observer instead of
So
like saying I'm that voice,
do you find
because
yourself
that's not
being
my voice.
do you find yourself being objective and getting answers and rationalizing with yourself? And, for instance, if I have, some venomous rants, and I might start thinking, are you going to put those videos up? And I'm like, I always put the videos up because I fucking made them. Yeah, well, you've got some friends out there, and they might think you're talking about them. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but
Oh, that's very very true. So yeah, so that's another thing that I do kind of have conversations with in my mind. There's things that I sometimes want to say, but I'll get that after I watch my video because I haven't really paid attention to how I structured it beforehand. But after I watch the video, I'm like, it kind of sounds like I'm talking about somebody, or this person may actually think I'm talking about them, but I'm really not. You know what I'm saying? I've had those instances before,
you
and
don't do it before you upload the video.
no, not too much. Not, I don't talk about. I don't really think too much before I make my videos. Like if I have a topic I want to talk about in mind, I'll just talk about it, and then I'll review it afterwards. But I'm not really too. I don't put too much thought into the stuff I want to talk about. It's like I feel like when I do that, it doesn't come out as authentic as I want it to come out. I want it to be because the moment you're like, if I make the video, it's like I'm doing the thinking part ahead of time already. You get what I'm saying? Because if I do the thinking before the video, then I'm already playing the video in my mind, and I've already done the video before actually doing the video.
Yeah,
You get
and
what I'm
then
saying?
you try to replicate it, but maybe you
Right,
can't quite
exactly.
remember it, and then it doesn't fucking come out right. So I do exactly the same as you. I
Yeah.
don't rehearse nothing. I just think of an idea and then I make a video. And for instance, one of the videos I made today, I wrote down that I'm going to make a video about aphantasia, internal monologue, and internal dialogue.
Keep talking. I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay.
And then I went about my business, and I came back, and I thought, okay, I'll just make those videos before I go to the gym. And I made a video before, and I thought, oh, I'll just tag this on to the end because it's not going to take very long. But then I thought, nah, I won't. It probably will take longer. And anyway, it's a different subject, and so I don't want to mix too many subjects up. And so then I started a new video, and it ended up being the longest video because stuff kept coming. I was streaming, and so
Right.
we tap into something, don't we? We tap into a higher state of conscious or unconscious or something. Something happens because I don't know anything like the structure, the magnitude, the depth, or the length I'm going to be speaking about. All I know, I've got a subject, and then everything builds from there, and it seems to be beyond my control or contrivance.
That's a great flow state. You get what I'm saying? Because there's a guy that I know that he watches my videos, and he says, I don't know how you talk for like 20, 30 minutes, like, fluidly. I wouldn't be able to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I go into a state where I'm just kind of like in the flow. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you're not really, you don't be like, there's videos I've made where I've been talking for like 30 minutes, and it felt like I was only talking for 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
How
And then
many
that's when
people?
you kind of like left
Yeah, how
yourself
many
on that.
people put in your comments like they do in mine? Because I'm always saying, come for a chat, or this, that, and the other. And they say, I can't do what you do. I can kind of like I understand what you're saying and I get it all, but I could never deliver it like you do. The words just
Mhm.
don't come. That fluency doesn't come, and I'd have to structure it down and write it down and then read it and all this sort of thing. So the fascination about these variant facets of human consciousness
Mhm.
is endless. And of course, even if somebody is, uh, maybe hitting a few of the points or ticking a few of the boxes on one of these things, there's variances. It's like saying, are you an extrovert or are you an introvert? Well, I mean, nobody really is fully either of those. There's little bits of introversion in the extrovert, a little bit of extroversion in the introvert, and it's all grey. There's no black and white. That's what I'm saying, and so what I do know now, that what I do is, and I've always said it's not something that I've ever set out to do. It's not something that I've ever learnt to do, or anything like that. It's all something that I've been able to do because of how I am. And so we can just go into flow. We have a subject and we can talk, talk, talk. Where's it come from? Who knows? I don't know. No idea. Is it coming from unconscious? Is it coming from the collective consciousness? Is it coming from the Akasha? Is it coming from through the morphic resonance? All these things, we can speculate about them all. And maybe we're being fed via all of these things. And so when we look at the world now, and we see all these people that have took the shit, and thinking people go, why did they do that? Do they not know that the governments are barefaced liars? They've been lying through history, and now you think that they're telling you the truth and all this stuff. What is going on with you people? And we could never work it out. For us, it was a no-brainer. It's like, ain't going near that shit. And then you see people dropping like stones. And I saw people, Ziggy, and I don't even know whether you had it or not. I'm not even going to ask you. But I've known people that were all switched on to this conspiracy stuff, and they knew all what was going on, and then they ended up taking it. And it's kind of like, why did you do that? Something got hold of them. Fear got hold of them. But yeah, what about your rational mind? Yeah, but the missus was a bit worried about it, and this. I thought, fuck it,
Yeah, but those are you see those are the weak people in my opinion because they're not strong on their stance. So when I take a stance on something, okay, um, I'm flexible and malleable, but I'm also very strong on the stance on what I see to be true. You get what I'm saying? So like with that jabbing part, you get what I'm saying? I immediately saw the fuckery
We've
in it.
got to be
You know what
very
I'm saying?
careful,
And
by the way. We're very careful with
yeah,
this subject.
that's why I'm using the words carefully. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But um, see, the whole thing is this: is what we talk about: what's true, what's not true, right? We know when somebody contracts a virus, right? It's it seems like a bad thing, right? But in the end, it's still a good thing. So we can always say one thing is true, one thing is not. People try to discredit the validity or reality of the uh, that virus that was going around, the pandemic. And that's why they're getting blocked off because it's not that it's not real or not true. It is a very real, true thing that's happening. It's just that it is not what it's told to you in the way it's told to you. It's kind of like somebody reading the Bible and getting information out of it one way when it's not meant to be taken that way. It's meant to be taken a different way. Um, and in actuality, in a nutshell, at the end of the day, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And it all depends on the individual that you're at, right? So everything's a mind game. How strong is your mind? If your mental state is weak, you will be dismantled and destroyed. If your mental state is strong and you know who and what you know you are the truth, then you don't fall for the lies. The lies itself can kill you because they're mind viruses. That's how it all starts with. It starts from a mind virus, and it infects you, and the mind makes it real, and that's how you end up outing yourself. You don't. Nothing outside of you is actually killing you. You're killing yourself. That's basically a manipulation and the magician taking advantage over the sheep, because they know that if they were to physically kill you, then that would be infringing on the free will of the person that wants to live. You get what I'm saying? And most people are afraid to die because they don't even know what death is, right? So now, as a disclaimer, just in case sensitive things were said, I'm not a medical doctor. Do your own research. None of my stuff is backed up by medical science or medical claims. Just, this is just content that I'm creating, and I create science fiction movies for you to think about yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's about it. Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
that's very useful considering we are in an actual science fiction movie.
So did that make sense to you or no?
Yeah.
What I said?
Yeah, I mean,
So
I would like to be able to talk to you in the greatest of detail, but it's not possible on this
I
platform.
made a video and it got taken down on that topic, which is crazy because I can go into even the words that we're using as far as, like viruses. Basically, we talk about the flu. The word flu comes from the word influence, and the word influence comes from the word influenza comes from the word influence.
Mm.
And influenza, if you really look at the root word or etymology of that word, it's influence of the stars. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
everything is basically falling from the sky. You know what I'm saying? What we're looking up at is basically influencing us in the form of astrology. Everything is for, and it's all influences, right?
Yeah.
But the whole thing is, through influences, you can actually take accountability and direction of your life a certain way as the individual observing these things, right? You're becoming a scientist, an observer, the priest, and whatnot. In all kinds of ways, you could take the accountability and power into your own hands, but a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people need a leader. A lot of people need a boss. How many people could be a boss to themselves without somebody holding them accountable? You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
hard for some people because they have to have a boss. They have to have somebody looking, or that's why they need coaches. They need life coaches. They need a coach or a trainer in the gym because they can't do it themselves. And
Mm.
that's how it is. It bleeds with life that way. Like you can't just do your own thing because and make your own fucking structure and make your own money because you need somebody to do it for you. You
Yeah,
know.
and so you know, I'm just making a lot of videos all the time, and I probably made
And
seven.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Let me just finish up with this. Life becomes a mental religion to them. You get what I'm
Mm.
saying? Because they put their faith in science, they put their faith in religion, they put their faith in the education system. So it's like you have no power because you're just listening to what the outside is telling you when you created that, right? As an opposition, but it's manifested in that way only because it starts from you first. You block all this from you. If once you start to take God authority and take the wheel, these things won't have any power over you. You know what I'm saying? The only reason they appear to have power over you is because of the position and state you took upon yourself to say, this is what I am. I am a sheep. And you may not be saying you're a sheep, but you're just positioning yourself that way, and your life will appear to be where now you put yourself as a victim, you know?
Yeah, and so when we look at human psychology, and we see all the variances and the differences of people, some on genius level of intelligence, some on the absolute bottom rung of the ladder. The vast majority of the masses buy into the propaganda because not necessarily that they're not that intelligent, more likely they're lazy and they just want a comfortable life. If we are going to get abreast of all the machinations on the planet, it's a full-time job. And this is why it was only people who didn't have jobs or made it our vocation to look into these things in recent times, because when it happened, I was on it from the very, very beginning because I was on everything. And so myself and other people, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen it? Oh, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this. And then we had the whole thing going. My channels were taken down, of course. Because I was too prolific talking about all this stuff. But when you look at who did this and who did that, and who's the ambassador for this, and who's fighting for freedoms, and it separated the wheat from the chaff, and you could see that. That's what they wanted, because I'm pretty sure that was one of their primal motives to do that, because once they do something like that, they go, let's see who does and who doesn't. And all the ones that don't, then their cards are marked. Have no doubt about that. Every single one of them that didn't, because we've all had the conversation, the phone from the doctor. Oh, we're just inviting you to come to take this. No thanks. Okay, so you don't want to take it. That's what I said. Bye. And so it's registered. Uh, on your file, and all these data and details, they're sent to the government, and so they're all compiled next to your name on the computer. And so of course, anybody that's speaking about this, that and the other, and Google's took your channel down, it's registered. Nothing's forgot. It's all compiled. Joe Rogan's saying all the time, of course, they're listening to everything I say, and they're just compiling stuff, and they're waiting for a day that they can use it, because he's too much of a threat. A thinking person inviting thinking people on the biggest podcast on the planet is a massive threat. And so at this very moment in time, they are doing whatever they can to find shit. And what they're going to do, what they have law and license to do now, is to bring anything from 50 years ago. They'll bring it, and they'll lay it on you now, and they have the jurisdiction to do that. And that in itself is criminal, because you see what happened is with my channels is that they introduced certain rules and regulations way after I'd made the videos. And then they just go bang, 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 strike, 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 done. And I've been making videos for a year and a half before about this subject matter. They never said from this point forward, don't be talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
All criminal, absolutely all criminal. But okay, now then, from all this stuff, I'm always looking at it both ways, and I always say my videos to people. I said, don't get thinking I'm fighting for the people. I'm fighting for nobody. I'm just saying what I see about this world, and you use whatever you want. I'm not trying to impress you, or I'm not trying to goad you or guide you. Nothing. I'm just doing a job which the universe, the cosmos, has given me to do, and I'm saying this stuff. And so people, it's like reading the book. You can't be blaming the person and feeling emotional about a person who wrote a fucking book. So why do it on a video? But because it's immediate, and because it seems to be more real, and people get all like this and get stupid about it, it's just fucking words. It's just an opinion. Just because it differs to yours, what the fuck's wrong with you? Pull your neck in. But we see them, and I see much more clarity now. I made a video yesterday, and I'm just looking at leaves on trees. I'm comparing leaves, and I'm comparing seeds on trees, and moseying around, and this what I've made hundreds, thousands of videos, over the years about. One dude who I don't recognise, what the fuck? So what? Fucking leaves here, fucking seeds there. Who gives a fuck? I'm like, you might be surprised to learn that lots of people give a fuck, mate. But what sort of a person would say that, Ziggy? What sort of person wouldn't give a fuck? What sort of person says, so fucking what? A completely detached person. Or a person in so much pain and suffering that coming on to, any videos like my videos, looking for the answer. Where's the fucking answer? Where's the fucking answer? You fucking bag of shit, that is. Fucking hell. Have a look at yourself, people. And so lots of people, they love the facet that I give them. Just say, have you seen this? Have you seen that? If you look at this and if you look at that, you see how this is, you see how that is. And these are, not even the same species, but they look almost identical. All these sort of things we can look into. And so I do that with the human being, with the mind, with the world. I do it with everything. I'm looking at the fine details, the minutiae. Now, I see how I'm working. And lots of people over the years, I've said, like, I don't know how you do that. How are you so articulate? How can you talk for so long? How can you bring all these things together? How come you don't lose thread? How come after an hour's conversation, you'll bring it back to where you started with this summary? And I go, well, I don't know. It's a gift. That's all I can say. I can't lay claim to working for my genius. If we can call it that, it's a gift. And we could say, it's a gift, but you've also had the experience, and because of how your mind works and how your memory works, my memory is very efficient and it stores a great deal, and I can pull shit back. Obviously, because when I'm talking, I just pull all this shit all from out everywhere. And so all the things that it takes to do what we do as podcasters, it is the perfect tools for the job. And I would think that, okay, some people have had a little bit of training, like Joe Rogan. He used to, do TV shows and read auto cue and all these sort of things. So he knows how to articulate himself and that. So he's had that practice. But me, I've just, put the camera on, talk. I've always been a talker. I've never, ever, been stuck for the next word. When we look at the variance of people, and in the past, I was very unsympathetic to people, because I'm like, well, we was always told and given the impression that we're all the same and we've all got the same abilities, but we've not. We're very, very different. And I've realized that over the years. And I've got pretty haughty at times, because I realize that there's a lot of dumb people out there, a lot of people very wanting in many realms. And it doesn't mean to say that just because they can't talk and, write books and things like that, there couldn't be brilliant violin players, because, often they are. We're good in lots of different ways. And, some people that aren't good at anything are beautiful carers and, humanitarian and compassionate. And we need all that shit. So when I look at the cosmos, I will never, ever say that it isn't perfect. It's perfect in every single way. And even on the world now, we got these world leaders doing this and doing that. They're not doing it to the ones that they can't do it to. They're not doing it to the thinkers. If you look at Jordan Peterson, if you look at Russell Brand, if you look at Joe Rogan, if you look at the Weinstein brothers, if you look at Ben Shapiro and all these people, they're all fucking millionaires. They ain't doing it to them. They're doing it to the people that everybody was always going to do it to. They was doing it to the people with no monologue, or most certainly no dialogue. I think I think without a doubt, there's no two ways Jordan Peterson doesn't have an internal dialogue. There's no two ways Russell Brand doesn't. There's no two ways Joe Rogan doesn't have. Because they're thinking people, and they're adding this up, and what if this and what if that. That's how a philosopher's mind works.
Everybody has the internal dialogue. The important thing is having it under control and learn when to switch it off.
A dialogue is two conversations, or one. It's a conversation. It's not just a monologue. It's a conversation. Everybody doesn't have that.
Yeah.
What, the dialogue? Everybody doesn't even have the monologue. They're just turning out.
Meaning that they don't have the internal conversation with themselves.
Yeah, they don't have that. They don't even have words in their head. They don't have words that they talk to themselves in their head. That's, that's what we're discovering now. And it's kind of like, well, if you don't have words inside your head, you aren't necessarily having your own thoughts. And so you are the ones that are going to be most susceptible to people telling you what to do and what to think about this world. So then you're the sort of person that's going to be reading the newspaper and watching the news. Now, one day I had a friend, and he was always listening to the news, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, world news. And I'm like, why are you listening to that shit? Well, I want to know what's going on in the world. I'm like, are you fucking serious? And he looked at me as if I was an idiot. I said, are you fucking serious? You think you're going to know what's going on in the fucking world by listening to that bullshit? You're just listening to propaganda, motherfucker. The world's got 194 fucking countries. What's it telling you about Pakistan, Afghanistan, fucking Constantinople, or fucking, all these different places on the world?
Well,
the Amazon
jungle. So Aaron, you're saying that somebody, like, if I tell you to say the word cat in your head, you can obviously hear yourself say that in your head, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying that there's some people who cannot say the word cat in their head?
Yes.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
They'll get a picture.
They can't hear, like, I just heard myself say cat in my head. They can't do that?
Yes. So that's what insane, I said. Bro. Initially, see, we went through this, but because of the absurdity of it, we don't register this fucking shit. But there's people that do not actually hear. If I go,
You don't think that that's maybe a form of somebody not being able to speak up? So, like, let's say, for example, somebody's getting bullied physically, but they don't speak up for themselves, yet they have the ability to, right? Do you think that when they're listening to garbage like propaganda and media, it's just that they follow along with it because they don't know themselves and they're just like weak minded, so they just follow along without actually speaking up in their mind or questioning what it is that they're looking at? You don't think
Yeah.
that that's maybe what's happening?
Well, I mean, as to why, if it's a genetic thing, if it's a construct, if it's a human construct, that some of us just do not hear voices in our head, um, then those people would never be schizophrenic. That's for sure. So that's a bonus. You know, a person who doesn't have an internal monologue could never be a schizophrenic
What do
because
you feel about schizo? What do you think about schizophrenics? What's your
I think
views on that?
schizophrenics are on a different plane of consciousness. I don't think it's an illness at all. I think if it could be channeled, it could be extremely important and beneficial.
Hmm.
Because
You know what's interesting? These people who have schizophrenia, they've actually had higher concentrations of DMT in their urine.
right, right.
That's very interesting to look at.
Well,
But
there was
science doesn't explore that, which is
Y-
crazy.
Yeah, there was one film, and I don't know what the name of it, but this person, it was, a well-renowned actor. He's the one where he's crawling on the pipes of the ceiling and keeping three girls or women, in captivity. And he had six personalities, and he would go to see his therapist in one, and he wouldn't be aware of the others necessarily. I can't remember to be sure whether he was aware of one or two of the others, but he wasn't aware of the monster. That just came out, and so it's just an extension of what I'm saying about how I think I am. There isn't one spirit in me. I'm most certain about that. That there is infinite spirits or potential of infinite spirits, and I think spirits are pretty well like people getting on and off buses. Spirits will pass through us depending on the situation. Now, I've been many, many places in the world and I've experienced many things. And when I've been there, I have carried spirits or spirits have come along for the journey.
Are you
For
carrying spirits now?
of course.
Sure. Go ahead, continue. I just wanted to make sure.
I just want to make sure. Well, you see, surely you must see varying spirits coming out in my videos. Some days you'll go, oh, powerful energy on this one. Then you'll go, oh, seems fucking chilled on this one. You must see that, yeah?
And you see that in mine too. Sometimes you can see that. Even I look at my own facial structures, man. Sometimes, see, I'm known as an Aries for that reason. I've got like this uh,
Yeah, yeah,
stress
yeah. The
here, and
crown
and
thing.
when I got certain energies and spirits, I noticed that this is a lot more stressed. But when I'm more relaxed, then it's a lot more chill. But normally, it's not something confrontational. But when I'm having a conversation with somebody, that tends to come out that way in more of a concentration form, or more or less like if it gets comes down to like it comes down to I have to joust with you, I'm ready. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I'm
and
just basically
that's what I
all
was.
the energies are there.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
within an instant, we can be very confrontatory, and we are prepared to fight to the death for the ground we're standing on. That's the variety of people we are. We possess those spirits, or
Yeah, and I respect that too, which is good.
spirits
That's
possess.
something that I respect that, but I would never do it in a malicious way. If it comes down to we're doing it and it happens to turn into a joust, I mean, fuck it. I mean, it's gonna still be where at the end we're gonna be like
Yeah,
sportsmanship
I
and say,
don't
hey
mean
man, it
with
was a good
us.
fight.
I mean with anybody. That's our personalities. We can lend ourselves to different things. We can be the fun
Hmm.
guys. We can be the serious guys. We can be the deep thinking guys. We can be the fuck around guys. All these sorts of things. We have the propensity to do that, and just I look at how I am, and over the years, well, there was a guitar playing, a musician spirit within me, still is. lie dormant for that last couple of years. There is a singing spirit within me. There is a naturalist spirit within me. There's a philosopher. There's a psychoanalyst. There's a whole bunch of these things. Every single thing that I have taken interest in, they're spirits pertaining to me. There's a mountaineer spirit in me because when I climbed that fucking mountain, right, spirits were with me. I'm telling you now.
It's funny how you mentioned that because I said that in some few of my videos. Even like I feel like I got a gardening spirit that somehow inhabited the vessel the moment I moved here because I didn't know anything about gardening. But now
Yeah.
I feel like I know more than a person who's done 20 years of gardening. That's one. And two, I don't know if you've watched my videos. I've got some amazing drawings, man. I somehow get into the spirit of just wanting to draw, but it has to be a feeling that I just really get motivated to want to draw, and it comes out so fucking beautiful, right? But then there's times where I'm not in the mood to draw, and I'll go draw, and it doesn't come out as good. It's kind of like you channel that energy, it becomes a motivation, and you take an action on it, and it comes out beautifully, man. Just as that's why I said, if I want to make videos, I'll do the videos when I feel like making the videos. It has to be then and there. If I wait till later,
Yeah.
then it's not the same. I
Yeah.
have to do the video then and there. You know what I'm saying? But then again, if I force myself to make videos, like some people just do it for I want to keep my channel alive and whatnot. Then they start talking a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people sometimes they want to pump out videos, but they'll do it in the interest of just keeping their channel alive.
Yeah.
And then the shit that they're saying is so fucking stupid only because they're just doing it in the interest of keeping their channel
Yeah.
alive, and it's just wasting. I feel like it wastes people's time.
Yeah, too weak, and he doesn't have the power. Now, this, of course, is what all these people do, which have got prolific channels and they're earning a lot of money from. Now, I'm, a subscriber to Russell Brand on Rumble,
Uh-huh.
and David Icke, and you'll get fillers. Because they've got to keep feeding, because that's the nature of the game. You've got to keep
Uh-huh.
feeding the people to keep their interest. You've got to keep the Hansel and Gretel trail going. You've got
Yeah.
to keep the red bell going. Otherwise, they'll be gone because, they've not got the initiative to fucking tune in to a particular channel. You've got to feed them like children. And so, David Icke and Russell Brand will pop up these fillers, and it's just kind of like, oh, fucking, real
Yeah,
trick.
you watch the video like it's stupid information
And
at times.
yeah,
Like sometimes, like,
but my videos, there's never a single one where I do that, and all of my videos carry an energy with them, and the energies vary, considerably.
but because
And
you tap into the energy. That's the whole thing. There's people who just bring it in, and they're just not tapped in. They're just doing it just to do it. It's just for an ulterior motive of keeping their channel alive. Like
yeah,
you're just pumping out the videos. I'm sure you're not thinking about the fucking cloud or anything. You're just pumping it out because you're just making the video, and that's it.
it's just something that I'm moved to do, and
Mhm.
it doesn't matter whether anybody watches it or anything now. I've realised a long time ago my videos are, like you say, they're our diary, they're
Journals.
our therapy, because of course we watch back our videos. I watch every single one of my videos back, just to see what I've said. Who said what? Who was it that was saying this? Who was it that was saying that? What energy was saying that? What energy was saying this? And it's kind of like I can observe these spirits in this thing. I can look at this body on camera and I can see one of the spirits in here. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of not many people would like to even lend themselves to that. I saw the mother of my daughter yesterday, and I stopped at the side of the road because she only lives half a mile down the road now. And I stopped, she saw her walking the dog, and we're talking about a daughter and different things. And I said, well, it's the spirits within us. Oh, don't start. I said, I'm just saying fucking spirits. You don't have to be thinking about devils and fucking demons, but just to mention spirits to some people terrifies them. And
Yeah.
I'll be dreaming. I'll be dreaming. I will. God forbid you'll fucking dream, woman. The fucking extent of some people, they just want to
No.
live in their fucking flatline world, and they want to have the government tell them what to fucking do, and that's it. You get married, you buy your fucking house, you do a job, you get your pension, and you die. Fuckers, and that's
No.
it. That's what they want to do. They don't want to do anything else. Too complex. And I live
No.
in this complex here with old people, and it was very significant that I didn't get an invite to one of their parties when there was about 15 of them out back here. And albeit they'll all speak to me, oh, hello, morning, Aaron, and this and the other, but they know that they can't communicate with me. I'm on a different fucking level. And I heard one of them speaking one day, and this is when I first came, and there's two old sticks sitting outside on the lawn. I had the window open, and one of them said, yeah, he's playing his guitar and his music, and it's all right, like, but when you talk to him, like, I think he's a bit higher than me. I'm like, you think I'm a bit higher than you? He's as dumb as they fucking come. But you see, Ziggy, they can't see it. He's got no idea. And this is I always use this metaphor of circles within circles, concentric circles. He's in the middle circle. He's probably stacked shelves all his fucking life and never been out of the country. I've been around the world on a billion fucking things. He's got no idea what's in here. And so they don't invite me to the party. And when I listen to them fucking talking, you can imagine. Well, he said this, and he's got knee pains, and oh yes, I think she won't be around for too much longer, and all this fucking shit. You'll never hear an ounce of philosophy come out of any of them, or you'll never hear them mention the nature. You never said, have you seen these birds or these flowers, or isn't it lovely? What a beautiful time of year. You never hear them saying anything about it. They don't see it. And I asked two of them one day, I said, don't you think the clouds are wonderful today? And they went, I can't look up at the clouds. If I look up at the clouds, I'll fall over. Okay, so you may be stiff, but I can look up at the clouds like this. I can just lift my eyes, Ziggy, and I can see the clouds. They never look at the clouds. They're in fucking flat world.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's amazing when you start to look into human consciousness and you see what's around. I swear there are many, many human forms here that are empty vessels. They don't possess spirit, and they come from all different sorts of constellations around this cosmos for the human experience. For whatever fucking reason, whatever they're learning. But I'm pretty sure that this place is a school.
Do you think that the world is how you see it, or do you think the world is how you are, or do you think the world is what it is?
I think it's a projection.
Mm-hmm. So why I ask this is because, like, let's say, for example, we talked about truth and lies and whatnot. You said in the last video, even after our conversation, that you still don't see truth. You don't see that, truth exists or truth is a thing. Let's say, for example, you have a millionaire and then you have a poor person. The poor person's reality is poverty, and the rich person's reality is abundance. Now, if they were to both have a conversation, obviously the rich person would look at that person's reality as a lie, and the poor person would look at the rich person's reality as a fantasy, which would just still be a lie. But it depends on the situation you're in based on the mindset that you have. So let's say, for example,
let's just clarify why they would look at each other's life as a lie. Why did you say that?
Well, they would look at it, because the mental state that the poor person's in obviously is going to give a projection of its position from a different perspective than the rich person would. So let's say the poor person may start to be a pointing finger, maybe a victim, may start to say, I have, but let me finish. They probably don't have access to the abundance that this person has because they close themselves off to that abundance, right? But then the rich person, at the position they're in, they don't see the possibilities of ever being that way. And if they were ever in that position, they can easily come out and put themselves back there only because they were already in an abundant mind state. And if the poor person was to win the lotto, they would lose those millions. And there's been research on this, and they'd be poor again only because they weren't able to handle that kind of energy. So life, for example, is basically a projection of your mindset. So your mindset makes real whatever it is you're experiencing. Yeah. So that's your truth That's the other person's truth. Everybody's experiencing truth in their own subjective reality. Now, what's the objective reality is another different, conversation that we can have. But what were you going to say?
So, in relation to we projecting whatever this is onto the blank canvas, that's what I, believe, and I'll get into Maya in a minute. But what I was going to say is, just because somebody's monetarily poor doesn't mean that they are spiritually poor. And you see, I can't lay my hands on £1,000
But
today.
that's a different
I'm making
topic. You're
money.
going into a different. Well, we're going into a different topic there. I'm just talking about that one specific topic to kind of concretely solidify what is truth. You know what I'm saying? To one person is truth. Like you can't say there's no such thing as truth, because the only way you can experience reality, the false or the lie, is through the truth. You have to be truth. It's kind of like saying out of darkness comes light. There would be no light if there was no darkness. You know what I'm saying? There's
Yeah.
still going to be there's going to be a subjective experience based on your perception about life. So that's why I asked you, do you see the world for how it is, or do you see the world for how you are? So you gave me the scenarios of your neighbors and all that kind of stuff, but you also said that as they were talking, you were listening to them, but they would also criticize you as to like the stuff that you're doing. It's kind of like you're both doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You're just not realizing that you're living in that same bubble. Somebody would say, "How do I end?" Like you have an influence in your environment. The environment has an influence on you, right? So let's say, for example, I live here in this community. My mindset has been changing. My mental state has been changing. I'm moving into different areas, for example, but I'm also meeting different people. I'm in a different neighborhood. The neighborhood there is nowhere near the type of neighborhood that I'm in now as far as the way these people think. You get what I'm saying? It's totally different. That's what I'm saying. So sometimes when you change and elevate your thinking, may be situations where life throws curveballs at you where you would have to be either, and it could be appearing to be a bad thing. It could be where you may get kicked out of that complex because a scenario presented itself, but it may be a blessing in disguise, right? But
Hmm.
in actuality, what may look like a a misfortune to somebody else, it may be that you got convinced of it by through somebody else that it was a misfortune, but in reality, it was a blessing in disguise because now you change into a different scenario
Yeah. So
that you don't belong in anymore. So you got kicked out of there by default only because you changed. But that changing of you elevating manifested as a misfortune. You get what I'm trying to say? Like that's why I said you can't categorize something as bad or good or true or not true. Everything is basically whatever you're experiencing is the truth because you are the truth.
okay, so you just said you cannot categorize anything as good or bad or true, but
Mhm.
and yet you say that I'm wrong by saying there's no truth.
Well, that's all depending on the like. Right now, you just said that a person who is currently broke, like they're broke monetarily, that doesn't mean they're abundant spiritually, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like now we're going into two different categories, which we could say, okay, that person's poor monetarily, but they're spiritually abundant, but
So
they're still living a truth.
let me do this then. Let me ask you a series of questions, and you give the
Hmm.
shortest possible answers,
Hmm.
because I don't know where you are on truth. Um, I think I have an idea, and I think you're being much more elementary than how I'm thinking, because I'm thinking more philosophical more than taking this as a reality, because I don't believe in this reality. And so if I said to you then, you give me a definition of truth, give me a simple definition of truth, and it could be just that you are holding a glass. That's truth for you. If you give me something which you would say is a definition of your truth.
But what did you just do in that now moment that just happened in the past? That's already in your past. It's not truth. But if right now, my present moment, my now moment, I'm holding a glass, this is true. I'm holding a glass, right? My now moment is truth. Whatever I'm doing in my present
Okay,
moment is truth.
now let me keep asking you these questions now. Can you hold that glass up again, please? And you're saying it is true that you're holding a glass, which is not a
Yes.
glass, it's a jar.
It's not a glass. It's a jar, whatever it may be. Yeah,
Okay.
whatever you want to categorize it as.
What else?
It's made of. It's made of glass.
Made of glass. And what's glass made
Mhm.
of?
Crystals, sand,
Silica.
silica,
And what's silica
still
made of?
sand.
What's silica made of?
That would go back into the grain of like things that out of my jurisdiction of
Okay,
knowledge. So I would just say,
let's just say ultimately it's going into molecules and atoms, and then it's
mhm,
going into energy.
mhm.
So what are you holding?
Well. This is a This is so it's appearing to be a glass, but there's a vibrate. It's because of the vibration is vibrating to, right.
Right. So look,
But we have a concrete definition of it in our now moment that it's glass,
no, we don't.
right?
No, we don't. No,
So
Tiggy,
if
Tiggy,
this,
stay with
say,
me. Stay
suppose
with
that if
me. Let
I,
me finish talking. Let me
okay,
finish talking. Let me finish talking.
good,
Because I'm going to
good.
show you how I'm thinking, and I'll
Mhm,
show you logically and reasonably why there is no truth. You
mhm.
tell me that you're holding the glass. Let me do it. I'll do it to myself. So I'm not, um, you know, picking on the way you think or anything like that. If I'm looking at this, then it would be reasonable for me to say to anybody that I am holding the glass because we've all been indoctrinated into considering thinking that we are actually holding a glass or something which is called a glass. But what are we actually doing? We are projecting a concept onto something we're holding in our hand. Now, some will call it a tumbler. Some will call it, a beer glass, or they'll have different things for it and different languages. It could be something else in many other languages. So I'm not holding the glass. That's just a word. The concept is some sort of water container, drink container, or something like that. And so all of a sudden we're vague on what actually I am holding. And then when we ask of what it consists of, well, it's glass, which is silica, and then it's molecules, and then it's atoms, and then it's energy, and then it's nothing, because even the so-called energy of an atom comes in and out of existence. So what we're actually doing is holding an illusion. Where are we holding the illusion? Not in our hand, because the hand doesn't exist. Because what is hand? Well, it's flesh and it's bone and it's blood and it's chemicals and it's atoms and it's molecules and it's energy and it's nothing. Oops, it's disappeared again. What hasn't disappeared? The concept hasn't disappeared. Go into a meditation. Go into a meditation where you don't think and there's nothing there. What's there? Nothing. You're in Maya. And so the concept of Maya is that this thing doesn't have anything that's separate. It's
But
non-duality.
I understand that. That's the whole thing. Like, even when they show you in certain movies, like there is no spoon Neo. I get all that.
Yeah,
But my point is that okay, you talk about we're having a conversation. We're talking about the cosmos. We're talking about philosophy. It's a thing. Because what's the point of having a conversation if there's no truth in what we're saying?
I don't think that just because I deem that this is Maya,
Mhm.
which doesn't exactly mean no truth, because we're having this experience and there has to be a certain validity to it, and there is, and I don't discount any of the validity, and I'm very acutely tuned into it all, and few people enjoy it as much as I do. But where I'm coming from this Eastern philosophy, where they say that all is Maya, they say all is Maya because they don't believe in a dualistic world. They believe in a monotheism, and everything is Brahman, everything is the spirit, everything is God, and nothing can be separated from that. So when we look at a glass, I'm holding a glass, you're not holding a glass. This is as much God as you are. And so all you're doing is projecting an idea onto God. And so you're changing God into whatever ideas you want. So this is very Platonic because it doesn't necessarily have to be Eastern philosophy. Plato said that everything is ideas. Everything is forms. There is no reality sat outside of our minds because all we do is we think about forms and ideas and we project them back onto the world. So I'm
All right. So
coming from that realm.
let me ask you this then. You upon that whole theory about the glass thing and whatnot, how can somebody tangibly use that in their life to make themselves better or become more awakened as like
Well,
Somebody portraying that message with
you
me.
most certainly can use that to become awakened, because when you get the grasp of that and you start to look at the reality of that, then you'll realize that you, the body, aren't actually who you or anybody else thinks you are. And so it's a kind of like, fuck, well, who am I then? Who am I? And this is where I am that I am comes into it, because they even said it in the Bible, only in a different way. All that stuff out of the Bible, Ziggy, comes from Eastern philosophy. Every fucking bit of
So
it.
wouldn't so wouldn't you apply that even to the people that live in your complex that you were just talking about, as far as like, because it's a negative scenario, but it's still an aspect of yourself.
Well,
The influences
let me
and
run
the
another scenario
environment and
by you.
whatnot.
In Buddhist philosophy, there is the uh, Advaita Vedanta, which is the basic study of non-duality. But lots of Buddhists don't believe that. They don't want to
Mhm.
believe that, because they say, well, what does that give us? Why would I want to believe that everything is Maya? I don't want to believe that my beautiful children are not in existence and this, that, and the other. But the philosophy isn't saying that they're not in existence. They are saying that everything is God. And so
Mhm.
there's nothing separate. Everything, your car is God, your homes are God, your cats are God, the sky's God. It's all God. Once we know that everything's God, it changes everything. And then all of a sudden we're in this magical mystery dream, and we'll never ever take anything for granted, because it's
But
all a miracle.
going back to the original question, then where did the negative emotions about your neighbors arise from? If they're all God and there are no people. The same way you said there's no glass, there's no people.
Yeah, well, there isn't any fundamentally with that philosophy, but we have to bear in mind it's a philosophy, Ziggy. It's a
So where
philosophy.
did that negative emotion come from about your complex or the people in your environment?
Well, it comes from the illusion of having a body and having elusive emotions.
Do you see where I'm coming from, though? I understand like where you were coming from, but this is the reason why I'm talking about it, because you're having an experience, right? And I understand that
God's
the whole
having an
Maya and the
experience.
whole
God's having a billion experiences. You
you're
see,
vibrating to a specific vibratory state. If not, you would merge into the environment.
yeah.
The reason you're an individual is you're vibrating, but you change your mind, you change your life, you change your vibe.
Let me come in. Merging into the environment. Now, I've merged into the environment, and this is called becoming enlightened, because what happens is when you merge into the environment, you realize that you are the same as God. You are God. You are the same as God. You are part of God. The semantics, people don't like it if you say you are God. If you say you're a shard of God consciousness, they feel much more comfortable about that. But when we have these, like ego death, when the ego dies and only awareness remains, that's when you know that you are all that is. And so the beauty of taking high doses of entheogens, it will give you an ego death sooner or later. If you have other bizarre supernatural experiences, near-death experiences, you'll get the same sort of thing. When your consciousness merges into the one, that's when you know it is all Maya, because you know you are no different to anything else. Then when your consciousness comes back on, you realize you're having a human experience, and you've got to take it seriously. And yes, there is a camera in my hand, because if I go around telling people there's nothing in my hand, it's all Maya, well, I'm going to lose friends everywhere I go. And,
You're going to well, they'll put you in a special place with bars and stuff like that,
well, they
padding on the
probably would have
walls
done
and
a long
stuff.
time ago, but now I think Eastern philosophy is readily accepted because everyone knows about it. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think most people are afraid of that, because they think that that philosophy is taking something away from them. But you see, what I have over and above the people who don't like that idea is I have the experience, and I know that my experience, knowing that this isn't real like we think it is, doesn't take anything away. In actual fact, it adds it, because it makes it more crazy, more wonderful. It makes it super, super perfect and immaculate, because I know it's all God. It's not
Well, let
just
me ask you this.
evil
Let-
Illuminati, and it's not just
Yeah, yeah.
shitheads, walking down the street, want to steal your fucking this, that, and the other. No, it's all God at the end of the day, and the bigger picture.
So should one care about their reality about life, or should not care about it?
Well, uh, that's a subjective choice that we are able to have. If you don't want to care about this life, then you can go and do what the Buddha did, sit under a tree wasting away for 12 years, not living life because you thought and you knew it was all Maya. That's not my bag, man. The day I knew it was all Maya, I wanted to fucking run around the world and embrace everything and love everything. When you are on DMT, that flushes you with God consciousness, and you know you are God, and you know this cosmos is made for you, by you, for you, whatever. You're just ecstatic. And that then, gives you compassion, it gives you understanding. And the thing is, I wouldn't have said this about myself, but one of my viewers the other day said, it's amazing, Aaron, how tolerant you are towards your neighbours and towards that squirrel which viciously attacked you. Because I was offering it food again within a couple of minutes, giving it another chance, and I fed it again today. And now it's coming round. It came within 1.5 feet of me on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It realised that it fucked up. And so I'm now, have the intention to bring it round and to tame it and bring it into the fold. Other people would have wanted to kill it, shoot it with a fucking air rifle, poison it, or something like that, because it inflicted pain and drew blood. But no, I have a very high tolerance for things like that because of the expanse of consciousness. If I put my consciousness into that of the squirrel, then I will try to envision what it was seeing and feeling. And I then, being a vastly over or more intelligent being, have to consider the lesser intelligent being, and I have to bring things into place to abate its lower intelligence, its instincts, its fear. So I have to prevent it or try to encourage it not to be fearful and look around at the others and see what they're doing, and no harm's coming to them. And so in time, I believe I will have Blackbeard eating out of my hand. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I was a younger person, I wouldn't have been anything like as tolerant, but because now I see things in a very different way. So the answer to your question, yes. By knowing everything is Maya, it vastly. And this is why people are enlightened. This is why the gurus. This is why they're highly respected, because things change about how they
Now
see
here's the thing though. If somebody who's given a message, right, that life is an illusion, nothing matters and whatnot.
No, 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 no,
Um,
no. Stop. Nothing. Stop with the nothing matters thing. I never
mm,
ever say nothing matters. I just say life is
oh,
Maya. Life is illusion. It isn't a real like you think it is.
there is no truth, and there's no
There is
truth.
no truth. Yeah, there's only
Right.
one truth, and that's all is God.
What is what do you think it's appropriate? And I'm sure I know the answer that you're gonna give me, but do you think it's appropriate for somebody to out themselves,
To take their lives.
kill themselves, kill themselves? Yeah.
Well, given that we are deemed to have free choice, I think it's perfectly acceptable. My old man killed himself. My mother killed herself.
I hear you. Keep
My
talking. Yeah.
two best friends killed themselves. My brother is heavily contemplated killing himself. And so I'm no stranger to that, Ziggy. And the alternative for my mother and my father, I don't know. My mother, I wasn't old enough to have any idea how strong she was or how she valued life. But my father, I watched him slump into depression, whereby he didn't find anything enjoyable about this life. And so he tried to kill himself on 3 occasions, and on the third occasion, he was successful. And so I believe that we should all have this choice. And that's why I am not fighting, or I don't have anything against euthanasia. I think we should have that choice. And I think it's absolutely obscene, the alternative. What is happening in this building block? There's an old woman. She's 88 years old. She can't leave her apartment. She just have no quality of life, and yet she keeps living. And there's
Mhm.
6 paramedics every single day bringing medicines and potions and this, that, and the other. And the paramedics are coming with the ambulances all through the night. Sometimes 3 times a week, and then they bring her back. She won't die. I have my daughter's grandmother, who is 87 years old, falling over, having seizures on the floor like this, and then she comes back and she wants to carry on living. She doesn't want to be in a home, but she can't. Nobody can look after her, in her own home because she needs constant surveillance. And so, if people are educated into the notion and the availability of euthanasia, I think that's a moral thing to do.
What if the person doesn't want to die?
Well, if they don't want to die, then keep living.
Yeah. But you're for like euthanizing the older people, um, if they don't have any quality of life, right? But what about what? Why? How do I want to structure this correctly? But what? Well, what is death? In your definition, what is death?
Union with God.
Union with God. So why would anybody not just want to kill themselves if it's union with God? If it's a union with God, why is it you think it's okay for a person to kill themselves if they want to kill themselves? If you say union with God, how come you don't kill yourself so that you could be closer to God?
Because I know that I am God. And so for those that don't
So
know
so
that they're
why would
God,
death be, so if you're alive and you say you're God, then why is death a union with God?
well, it's a union with God as much as life is a union with God, because everything is a union with God because there's nothing outside of it. So I could have said to you, there is no such thing as death. But in this construct, we consider that there is death. But how many people have died here, Ziggy, and said that they didn't fucking die? So therefore, that tells us that there's no death. And so we're dealing with semantics, we're dealing with ideas, and we're dealing with lies, basically, because there's no truth in that. There's no truth in
Mhm.
dying. When people fucking flatline and they've been dead several minutes, and then they come back and they say I wasn't dead. And so we have to
Yeah.
listen to this. It's about time we started to fucking listen globally, because there's been millions of people that have been telling these stories over and over, and the internet's full of this shit. I met God, I met Jesus, and all this.
Are you the type of person that likes to put life to things or put death to things? As Aaron Berry.
Put life to things or death to things. You mean I want to take things away from people or give them?
Just basically like it's as the definition goes, put life to things or give death to things. So in actuality, are you somebody who brightens the room, or you'd rather just cause chaos and destruction around your planet?
Both in an equal
Both
amount.
in an equal amount.
Yeah. Why?
Now,
Why? Because that's the nature of the cosmos. It's yin and yang, it's polarities, and it's a paradox. And I am a perfect example and exhibit of that. And I'm not denying that. I'm not shying away from it. I'm fully embracing it. I'm fully embracing my dichotomous nature and my paradox.
when do you feel it's appropriate to add the chaos and destruction to things?
I don't consider how these things are appropriate because I speak on my private platform, and
Mhm,
that's my right. And Google even allow me to do that. And so the world as yet doesn't have a problem with that. And if a few
mhm,
people have a problem with listening to me saying it's all Maya, and then they go and kill themselves, I'm not responsible. I don't feel responsible, and I won't hold any conscience about it. That's God's
mhm.
will, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And so look, Socrates was killed by the state, Ziggy, for telling people the so-called truth, things they didn't want to hear. And so,
So
if people don't want to hear what I say, as soon as they get a hint at where I'm coming from, then they should tune out.
I don't know.
Because
I don't. Me personally, I don't care what you say. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, it just, these are just
Yeah,
questions in
because
general because.
you're solid in yourself. And when you said
Mhm,
to me, so how do you feel about when people criticize you? I go, well, it's just like water off duck's back.
mhm.
I'm not a needy person. I don't need anybody's
There's a
bullshit.
reason why I asked you that though. I asked you that for specific reasons though.
I
Um,
think you asked that because you wanted to see if it was in line with how you feel, and it is. Am I wrong?
mhm. It is well. That's partially why, but also when I ask questions and you give responses, it's kind of like one. The last thing I would ever want to do is uncomfort anybody or infringe on like somebody else's way of being. So let's say, for example, if I decided to criticize your uh, stream of thought or didn't go well with your things, and then I decided to challenge you on it, the fact that you answered and said that you don't care, it's kind of like a consent. I don't have a problem with doing it then. You know what I'm saying? I would, like, if somebody says it's okay to do it, then I'm going to continue to
Yeah,
further question
yeah.
and your logic. It's
And
kind of like
so
keeping my hands free and clear of blood on my hands. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, and so therefore you can inquire as deep as you like into my philosophy.
Yep.
And
Right. Without, because you said it's okay.
yeah,
So it's kind of
I'm
like,
giving you
so
license.
in that way, I'm being like a vampire. I don't come into your home unless I'm invited in. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Not to, and it's just the way it is. Like, we're using the yin and yang of
And
things, but
so
I
look,
also have to make sure that you're okay with it.
you couldn't ever ask me anything which is going to affront me. All you're going to be doing is giving me the opportunity to think about something that maybe I haven't thought about, and that's going to
And
come.
we also that's bringing out the best in each other. That's what
Yeah,
people are supposed to do, is bring out the best in
yeah.
each other.
Let me just ask you
Um,
this. Let me just ask you this because we're 1 hour and 30 minutes now. Have we got much more to say? Because if so,
we got a little more time, probably about another 15 minutes, because I do have a client to
I'll
train.
do you
But
because
we can
otherwise,
continue it.
if we're going to go into another half an hour, then I want to cut this video. But if it's 50 minutes, okay, we'll do hour and 45 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, because I have a client at 1 o'clock, so I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm there on time for that.
Okay, so I asked you about you if you had aphantasia. You don't. You can see at some degree. Then you have a monologue and sometimes a dialogue, and so a bit curious about that. Um, but you can have a conversation with yourself about should you or shouldn't you, or maybe like the perfect example was, what were you thinking when you had this thing going with your sister a few years ago, when that was all going through your head? You must have had an internal dialogue or monologue at least when that was going on. You must have been standing in the
Yes,
shower sometimes and thinking about what
Those are,
this.
those are the type of scenarios. Yeah, those are the type of scenarios that have happened, that uh, and I learn from these things. So they're actually like blessings in disguise, right? So there's scenarios in my mind that play of what I could have said, what I should have said that would have been better, what I could have said that would have stuck it to her, that I didn't say, and those are the type of things that started tormenting me, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then it took a lot of like strength to basically just let it go, let it out of my mind, and say fuck it, it doesn't fucking matter. But I want to also let you know this before I go into that topic. There was a lot more I wanted to dissect on the death, and like, because you talked about the old people and whatnot. I wanted to get in there and dissect a little bit more of that topic, because I wasn't really satisfied with much of the depth as far as we went into in there. We could do that in another video if you want.
No, do it now
As
because
far
look,
as like,
what I will say to you is that you are looking and speaking to a paradox, and
uh-huh.
if you are ever looking to see fundamentally um, um, what my philosophy is, and expect something that is going to be perfectly reasonable and rational and non-contradictory, nobody will ever do that. And when you listen to the greatest of gurus, they always reserve the right for being paradoxical because they know the
But
nature.
yeah, but
So I'm
well,
going to
because
tell
they're
you
not.
things that are going to completely
Mhm.
contradict. I will say, if I was king of the land, then I would put these old people out of their misery. It would be there'd be a vetting system, and it would be how compass matters, how much of life quality do they have, and if they didn't raise up to the envisioned or required, or what I would say compassionate level of quality of life, if they weren't having a quality of life which pleased them and gave them reason to live, I would then instruct euthanasia compassionately.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, we're on a construct, or it appears to be a construct that's ran on a program, and the program is revolved around what we're taught in religion about Christ, right? And then the whole motto of this is to be more Christ-like. So we're experiencing a realm where we're appreciating life, and we're also appreciating death because we're coming closer to death. We're actually living, but we're also dying at the same time. That's the paradox.
Yeah.
Okay, but the whole point is that in order for me to understand life, I have to understand what death is. Okay, a lot of people have fear, and that's what keeps them mentally trapped, is fear, because fear is of the chaos, confusion, and it's mainly of the devil. It's not of the life we're living. So for a person to be aligned with Christ, or let's say with God, or say you are God, or say you're authority of life or light or whatnot, you have to have a strong backing of death. But that doesn't mean you afflict that death onto people if it's not their time. So, for example, we're in a realm that's ran on. We talked about yesterday on the people eating a certain way, treating themselves a certain way, and whatnot. A lot of this is coming down to self love, and when somebody doesn't really truly love or appreciate themselves, they don't take the initiative to know about themselves, even on a molecular level. What belongs in their body as far as fuel? What belongs in their body as far as information? What belongs in their body as far as energy and information, right? So let's say a person comes down to an old age, and this is what everybody should be doing, but we're supposed to. This is why I do what I do, as far as like being in the realm of health and wellness, herbology, naturopathy, iridology, and even fitness, and being an instructor in the form of personal training, right? It's mainly where if a person is in a state of chaos or hell, we should be Christ-like to be able to heal the blind, heal the sick, heal the ones that are dying, in a way where we're bringing life and light into that individual one way or another, where it seems to be fit. So if a person's obviously close to death and they're beyond, uh, let's say, curing, because they're already in like close to death, there's no coming back from that. It's more or less like to have that person, without the drugs and whatnot, is have that person live their life as best as possible, and then just die a natural death. You get what I'm saying? And this can go into many areas as far as veganism, which I've gone into with animals and whatnot. These people are doing it all invertedly. Is they're just doing it the same way religion comes from ego. But when it comes down to, let's say, euthanasia of old people and whatnot, supposing you came down to an age where, and I know you probably say out me and whatnot, um, that all depends on the individual and how they live their life and how they got there. But everything as far as to a person and the people of your age group or even younger and whatnot, it comes down to breathing the breath of life into that person, but in a way where, and it's not a chaotic way, because sometimes the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But what we're doing here, we're talking about the whole jabbing thing, and we're talking about the whole poisons in the food. We're talking about the inorganic way of living and whatnot. That also leads into a death-like state, but also mind viruses that we implant on each other, as far as like, oh, if you do this, this is bad is going to happen to you. If you do this, this bad is going to happen to you. Spreading kind of like stuff that the media does, spreading bad news and whatnot. It becomes mind viruses, right? That's why I don't like to talk about victim shit, because putting yourself into victim shit, there's really no solutions. You get what I'm saying? That's my opinion. When you're talking from a space of wherever you're talking from, but you're coming out with a solution, then you have more of a probability of giving that person the right path to basically living their best life possible and meeting death, and also knowing and accomplishing what death actually is while they're living.
So are
So
you for euthanasia or not?
no, I'm not for euthanasia at all. Why would I euthanize somebody if they're in old age? Just let them die the way they're gonna die. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but
That's just their problem.
allow me to tell you why.
Mhm.
One of the reasons is, of course, because it takes a vast amount of resources to keep these people alive for no benefit at all, because they don't have any quality of life and they're in pain, and most of them are senile in any case. So there's no reason why they should be alive. It's just a phenomenon that their hearts keep ticking and they keep waking up, even though they don't even know who they are when they wake up. These sort of things. I've been in the hospital on one occasion when I had an issue with my back. And I was in a ward, curiously, with people that were evidently dying. And they were skeletons with skin on them. And they were making all different sorts of incoherent noises. And this went on day and night. And then now and again, you'd get like some of their uh, offspring in to give sympathy. And I watched them, Ziggy. I watched them sit next to their dying mother or father, with no response whatsoever. Held the hand a little bit. The body didn't even know that the kid was there, and they spent 20 minutes looking into the phone, and then they patted them, and then they walked out. Are you saying that euthanasia isn't required there?
No, if they're waking up, it's because they have to wake up. They're supposed to wake up. That's why they keep waking up. Because then we can go back to, I just asked you before about the person who's schizophrenic. You said that that person's in another dimension, but then if that person to another person is sick and say that person shouldn't be alive because they're just fucking going crazy, you know what I'm saying? Then what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be here. We're supposed to learn from everything. But how do you know that that person who's in a skeleton, they're not doing something that's considered God's work and they're supposed to keep waking up? Why are we supposed to be interrupting that process?
Well, that's a very metaphysical question.
But we
Um,
are in a realm where, you know, you even said everything's Maya, and we're in the realm of all possibilities. But I feel like whatever is alive is supposed to be alive, and it's supposed to fulfill its complete sentence or duties. It's kind of like a life sentence. You go to jail, you complete a life sentence, right? How do you know that that person ain't going through there to clear out some type of karma, or they're not clearing out some type of negative energy, but their physical body is enduring it? Like, you come in here, just because you're not in a deathbed suffering the same way that person's suffering, you may be suffering in other ways. You may be suffering in ways, and you're supposed to endure. You're supposed to endure because you're born in sin. You're enduring the sins of the world. That's truly being Christ-like. That's Christ consciousness. You get what I'm saying? You add life to things, but you add death to others. You overcome things. You overcome humanity. So the moment that that person breathed their last breath, they overcame humanity in that physical realm. But you're overcoming humanity. You're going through deaths all the time, the way you overcome obstacles and situations in life. Just because it's not exactly the same, it doesn't mean that it isn't valid. You get what I'm saying?
hmm.
It's the same thing. You're
Yeah,
not supposed to
I
interfere.
mean, they're very philosophical questions, and all it boils down to is however we are going to be addressing these, thinking about them, and how we come to our own individuated conclusions is a complete mystery because we could never really define that. But the mother of my daughter had an issue related to this only last week with her
Mhm.
mother, who's 87, falling over, going into a seizure, and all these sort of things. One minute she knows who she is, and then the next minute she doesn't, and she's pissing and shitting herself and all this. And so she went into hospital after the seizure, and the doctors
Mhm.
and nurses, of course, had to get her to sign a non-resuscitation certificate. And they asked her, "Do you want us to resuscitate her?" And then she went, "Oh, fuck. All of a sudden, I've been put in the position of God where I'm going to be choosing who lives and who dies." She said, "I can't
Yeah,
make
but here's the thing. Even that person is put in that position for a reason. So there's people, for example, let's say if a person, their mom is dying, then all of a sudden the daughter becomes the caretaker for that person, right? That person took on that position because they're supposed to. That's why they were placed in that position to begin with. But at the end of the day, they're living out their karma. But it's also a reason to even that their mom being alive is also a reason why that person taking care of their mom is alive as well. You know what I'm
it."
saying? It's a purpose. It's a meaning to life.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
there
All
for
right.
that
Let me
purpose.
ask you.
It's no. Wait. I'm gonna finish. It's no different than they always have these things that I see on YouTube and whatnot, and people completely overlook this. But they say that when you have a pet, it helps you. It's good for your heart. It helps you live longer. They have these healing properties. But it's also, in fact, aside from the cat, because people are going to start utilizing cats for that as tools then to keep them alive. It's not even that. It's just the fact that you're in a position where you're taking care of an animal that has that kind of frequency. You're also being alive for that reason. You're giving yourself
You're
meaning and purpose.
generating
If I
love
have,
in your body, which is healthy,
that's
which is
right. It's
vital,
healthy.
and
Yeah.
that's what it is.
So that's why they say love is the answer to everything, right? But in love, you also have death, because death is a detaching process. And the thing is, people who are in their ego, when the person does die, that detaching, you're supposed to let them go, because the moment you're holding on to a negative emotion about that person dying, it's all about you. You're not letting that person pass because you're basically making it about you now. You're supposed to let them go and appreciate the experiences you have with that person. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
But it's not up to you to say when they die.
Yep.
That you're taking it's like somebody saying, I want to manifest something in the universe. Your job, and this is the inversion paradox, your job is to already be there as if it already happened. The fact that you try to take over the process is you taking over God's work. You're
But
not supposed to worry
yeah,
about the process.
this is so complex because if we
It
say
is, but it's very interesting at the same time.
yeah, yeah, because if we look at so many other things, and we say, for instance, look, due to how lots of people grow up and they've got propensities to do this and to do that, well, it's God's will to let them do that, let their natural instincts play out, and this, that, and the other. And if adults want to take advantage of children in a sexual way, then that's all fine. So my final
Hmm.
question to you is just to wrap this one up really quickly. Then now, I will ask you: do you think the world is perfect?
The world is perfect. The
It is.
world is perfect in every, yeah, it's
Yeah,
perfect in every single way.
yeah,
It's perfect. All the negative, all the positive, it's there as balance.
yeah,
That's why it exists. It's because it's perfectly balanced.
yeah,
Now, it's also the chaos that I see or the negative I see in it is true, but that's because I'm observing what's in me and it's true, right? So the way somebody would start to point out all the negatives and then somebody would transmute it and say, no, I see the bright side of things, they're both true. You know what I'm saying? It's just that the individual perspective of that individual is the way that they're seeing it, which makes it true to them. The mind makes it real. So the world is perfect. I'm projecting this reality. My body is perfect. I'm the one that gets in the way of it from maintaining homeostasis. So if I get a headache, I'm not. I'm supposed to know why I have a headache. If I have a fever, I'm not supposed to take a pill to stop that. The fever is there for a purpose, to get rid of a negative pathogen that's in my body. But because I don't feel good, I decide to take a pill. That's where the fuckery is. You get what I'm saying? Only to maintain, because I'm trying to take over the process of something that's happening for a reason.
yeah.
I have a fever because my body's getting rid of a pathogen. I categorize it as a bad thing, so I try to neutralize it by taking a pill. Instead, I'm supposed to endure the fever to let the body run its course so that I can get better naturally instead of
And
stopping the process of that appears to be bad,
yeah, and
right?
this is the whole thing. What we try and do these days, what's been bestowed upon us, is to hide from pain, to
Yes,
shy away from facing anything which remotely painful or brings about suffering. When suffering
which is
is what creates suffering, is what's going to make
yeah.
you what you are.
Hey,
Ultimately,
Aaron, I gotta go, bro. You heard? I'm sorry to cut you off. I gotta
yeah,
go though. Okay. But I really want to continue this topic maybe some other time whenever you're free because I like this topic. This is a good topic. So that's the reason why I'm against euthanasia, right? Because it's also we save resources and that brings pain and inconvenience, right? But
yeah,
instead, we're supposed to be able to endure everything. We endure things. We're in the present moment. We know what to do because we're in the right hand of the Father. We're in the seat of God. God, when you're with God, you know what to say, you know where to go, you know what to do. In the instance that there's bad things happening, you're always going to know what to do. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm not worried about the resources that it would take to keep somebody alive. I'm not worried about the resources it would take to I'm not worried because I know God's got the wheel and that's me. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? But I'm in line with that
Yeah,
as
and
the
so
singularity.
last 2 seconds
Mhm.
is I was
Yeah.
looking at it from a compassionate. I was doing the equation.
Mhm.
How compassionate would it be to let them live, or to end their life? Because if they were in pain and suffering every single day, why would
It's
you want
ego.
to? That would be a terrible thing to do to
Yeah, it's
force that
ego
on
still.
somebody. Anyway, to be
Yeah.
continued. Great chat again, Ziggy. Enjoy the rest of your
Yeah,
day.
great job, brother. Sorry to cut you off quick, but I
No,
got
no, 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 no.
but
It's
we'll do
perfect.
that. We started a little bit late today too. That's why. So
Yeah, man, I got carried away, but I was having a fucking great time. Strongest I've ever been.
I hear you.
See you
Good,
soon,
bro.
mate.
That's what's up, man. We'll talk soon. Hit me an email when you want to do it again, bro. We can
Will
continue
do.
on this topic. Is good. Yeah,
Yeah.
good
Nice
one,
one.
Chad.
Cheers again. Bye
Thank you,
now.
brother.